Welcome to the State of Our Union, the podcast where real love meets real life. I am your host, Karen Williams, author, speaker, and wife of over 30 years. This is the space for honest conversations around marriage, commitment, conflict, healing, and learning how to choose each other daily. And it's even during the times when life gets heavy. Because love isn't just about the vows we take. It's about the work we're willing to do together. Each week, we'll have conversations that inspire, challenge, and remind you that even through loss, disappointment, and change, your relationship can grow stronger. So wherever you're listening from, whether you're driving, cooking, working out, or lying in bed wondering if you're alone in this, just know you're not alone. So take a breath, lean in, and let's talk about the real state of our union. Welcome back to another episode of the State of Our Union and the Fight to Keep It. I'm your host, Karen Williams, and today I have AD and his wife, Courtney. AD is a men's relationship coach, and Courtney is his amazing wife. We all know that he's not all that he thinks he is without Courtney, but we're gonna dive we are going to dive into some really good conversations today. Um, I know that I know there's a lot of, topics around the subject of marriage and marriage relationships. And so we want it to be fun. We want the conversation to go whichever direction that it goes today, which of course we're going to be more conversational. So AD, introduce yourself and your wife, Courtney, to our audience today.
Yes. So my name is Augustic Dunbar, but as you know, I go by AD, the Kingmaker, on all my social media platforms. I am a men's relationship coach. This is my wife. She is lucky enough to be married to such a great guy like myself. And we have been together for 15 years. That's really on and off. Okay. Sometimes she was acting right, sometimes she wasn't. But we've been married now for 6 years. And I don't know how long we're gonna make it. We take it month by month, day by day. She likes to consider me her best friend. I don't own up to that title, but we're very, very close. Very, very close. I will say she's the best woman I've ever had. No one's ever treated me better. And you
Nice.
know, this is my partner in crime.
Yes, yes. Awesome. Courtney, tell us a little bit about you.
Um, I am his wife, obviously. We met in college. We've been through a lot together. But yeah, he's definitely my best friend. If you know us, we're typically always laughing about something. We don't take a lot of things seriously. We do take our marriage seriously.
Mhm.
But outside of that, we like to have fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I always say humor is probably the best, tool to, work our way through marriage because, hey, we can't take ourselves too seriously. You do that and,
Mhm.
you know, we're in trouble. So let's jump right into it. We're going to talk a little bit about one of you guys mentioned earlier that you have been through a lot together. What is one of those challenges that you guys have experienced? And tell us a little bit about it as much as you're comfortable with. And then to kind of walk us through a little bit, what are some of the tools that you guys use to get through it, get to the other side of it, and, talk as much or as little about it as you want to.
I don't know, there's so many things to choose from.
There's so many. I'll lead. So I would say one of our first challenges early on was just learning how to communicate our thoughts, our feelings. And this is like way back in college.
Hmm.
Communicate our thoughts and our feelings without being angry, without belittling one another, without raising voices, without being disrespectful, uh,
Hmm.
without sweeping things under the rug and just letting resentment build for sure.
Right. Right. And so how did you first of all, would you agree that was one of the biggest challenges, Courtney?
Yeah, I think just being together since we were both 18, we were treating each other still like we were young adults slash kids. And it's hard to grow out of that when that's what you're used to for several years.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you guys get to the other side of that?
We've done lots and lots of things. I would consider myself a they what do they call that? Like a personal development junkie.
Mhm.
So we're talking therapy, relationship counseling,
Yeah.
books on communication. And I never really did these things to like improve our relationship, quote unquote. It's
Mhm.
more so I like learning about me, right? And I want to treat others the way I want to be treated. So when I started realizing like perfect example, my dad is the same way. Our tones can be harsh, very sharp, very straight to the point, and to me, that's just how we talk, right? That's how me and my mom, my dad talk. But then you realize everybody's not like that. And then you learn, oh, that tone in general is just destructive. Nothing good really comes from that tone.
Mhm.
And I learned that in like a sales course that I was taking. So
Okay.
that was something that I realized, oh, okay, that's a destructive tone of voice. Let me just not use that. Then I
Mhm.
learned to have a loving tone. And then I realized, oh, shoot, you know, my woman is my mirror, and anything that I give to her, she's going to give back to me. So if I give her harshness and sharpness in my tone, she's going to give me harshness and sharpness back. But if I give her love and softness and warmth in my tone, then that's what I get back. So I would say a lot of our growth has just come from me learning new things. And now I'm engaging with her in a way where I'm aware of my communication instead of
Mhm.
unaware.
Mhm. Courtney?
Honestly, he has led all of that, and I've typically have followed along with
Mhm.
it. He is definitely a personal development junkie. I think a lot of that stuff has rubbed off on me, and then in some areas I took, my own initiative to learn how to be a better wife. Because I think most people when they get married, they think they know, but they really don't until you're in the thick of it. So,
Right.
um, just following his lead in that regard, but then also doing some things on my own to show initiative that I care.
Mhm. So, yeah, it's the conversation we always wanna have, well, especially on this show anyway, we want the conversation to lead in a direction where, you're speaking directly to that young couple who maybe a year or 2 into marriage, and they're going through the same thing, and they're like, "Well, Courtney, AD, I don't wanna sit down and read all these books. I don't wanna do all of that." What do you say to what do you say to those couples?
I don't want to sit down and read all these books. I don't necessarily like reading either. It takes
Mhm,
a lot for me
mhm,
to sit still long enough to really consume something. So
mhm.
I get that. I would say that you've got to learn relationship mathematics, right? There's just certain things that are just true. There's certain principles that are just true that whether you know them or not,
Yeah,
you are being you are being affected by them. Just like you don't have to believe in gravity to jump off a building and die, right? Like, so there are
absolutely.
principles like that.
Good point,
And
good
one
point.
of the principles within relationships, especially marriage, specifically marriage, is that both partners must grow, period.
Yes.
Both partners must grow. So once you realize that, your choice is either you grow. Now, you can have two stagnant people. I think that does work, right? But I think that typically the marketplace forces men to grow, right? So the man is going to have to grow or grow broke, right? And so knowing that your choice to me is as simple as, do I want to maintain this relationship or do I not? I know I must grow.
Yes.
And based on that, I would say, how can you grow in such a way that is enjoyable to you, to where you're having fun with the process? Because then it doesn't feel like work, right? Growth
Mhm,
can be fun if you make it.
mhm. Okay. So you're saying whether or not you to that couple, whether or not you choose to grow, you're gonna be forced to grow. So
Yes. And so you cannot force the other half to do it,
right,
but both must grow. And I don't think anybody wants to be in a stagnant relationship, right?
right.
Or a stagnant lifestyle. Maybe if you're like 80 and you're like, hey, I am who I am, she is who she is, and that's it. But you said young couple. So
Yeah.
yeah, both parties must grow.
Yeah. Yeah. Courtney, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with what he's saying, and I think to his point, you have to find something that makes it enjoyable. I know several years ago, I mean, I think now currently he like loves watching YouTube videos, books, seminars, all that stuff. But even before, I think either one of us were really digesting in that way. We used to live in an apartment complex, and there was several married couples that we ended up befriending who were older than us, so had been married for a lot longer than we had, and just by being around them, you pick up on things from them, like how to talk to your husband, how to talk to your wife, like things like that, where it's like you're just by hanging out with people who have been there and done it, you pick up a lot of value, and it's enjoyable, right? Like you're doing what you're already doing, but you're getting value along the way. So I would say maybe even just start off by finding a couple of friends who may have been married for a while, or even an older couple, or just go to events for married folks and just befriend them and talk to them, ask them questions, because I find that they typically love to give advice, especially
Yeah.
to younger couples as well. So that's probably an easy first step to kind of get involved in that.
Yes. And that is so gold because Rob and I have been married 33 years. And in our first few years of marriage, that's exactly what we did. There wasn't, as there wasn't a lot of books out on that kind of stuff. We didn't have access to internet and that type of thing. So going out and, like you said, attending those married functions, being around people that's been married for a while, and being able to discern also, like, is that the couple I want to emulate? Probably not. And then you see the other ones like, yep, they're heading in the right direction. I like the way she talks to him. I like the way he, treasures her. You see the different things. And of course, some of the habits, we didn't pick up all of them, obviously. I'm not the one, I'm just not that wife that cares whether or not my husband opens the door for me. It just doesn't matter to me. I don't knock people that do it, but it's not that important to me. Um, if there's specific things that I want him to do, I know how to ask for that. Valentine's Day come, I'm not that girl. I don't care about the flowers. I don't care about the candy. But there's some that do. That's valuable to that particular couple. So my point is, there were things that we knew what would work for us, and so we picked up on those behaviors, those habits, and so that is such a good point to make. If you're not a reader, if you're not if you don't want to go invest in the YouTube videos, if you don't want to invest in the self-help, webinars or whatever, that's one way that you and I are, for that young couple out there, that they can, use as such a good source of information, a great tool, great example. So mentors are important. So people around you, the environment that you set for your relationship. So I hear you guys saying you can't just hang around just anybody.
Nah, we don't even like people like that. No, no.
Yeah, we just can't hang around anybody having them invest in or pour into our marriage.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I got you. I got you. All right. So when we talk about challenges like money, communication, expectations, of what area stretched you guys, not necessarily a challenge, but it stretched you early on, and why was that? I know for us, finance. We start laughing, so
Yeah,
y'all
we laugh because we know it's money. Money is the one.
yeah,
You
'cause
want to tell
that
the
stretches
story about
you.
the the where the hell were we in the marriage couples thing?
You tell us because it's
I don't
recorded.
remember. Okay, I'm gonna tell the story. She's gonna correct me. So
Okay.
we joined this it was premarital counseling is what it was. So it was
Okay.
us and probably like 10 other couples, right? And I
Uh,
think we were not married yet. And all of the 10 couples, no one was married yet. And they brought us in, and I think it was like 6 or 8 weeks or something like that. And we would get together every Tuesday or something, maybe Thursday.
mhm.
And they would say, hey, and it was led by older married couples in the church. And they would say, Our goal is not to tell you that marriage is going to be peachy keen, it's going to be amazing. Some of
Right.
y'all might realize that y'all don't need to be married by the time this whole thing is over, and that's great,
Right.
right? And I like that. I like that. Go ahead and lead with the worst case scenario for me. And so sometimes they break the men and the women up. And I remember one time, this particular week, it was about money, right? And so they had us all sit in a circle. And here's the thing: I want to cover my wife here. She's not mean, but she used to be mean. Okay, she's not rude. She just used to be rude. And so I forget. Do you remember what the question was that they asked?
What the credit score?
Yeah. What was the question though?
Was something that's important to you, maybe financially? I don't know.
Yeah, it was like something. They asked a question like, "What's really important to you?" Um, financially or something. And
Okay.
here's the thing, you've seen her sitting here. She don't talk that much. She's my little mute babe.
Mhm.
And so it's funny because I asked that question and she spoke up very much with her chest. Oh yeah, credit score is absolutely important to me. If you dusted, you ain't got bad credit, that's just I just don't know. I don't know exactly what she said, but like she said it in such a way that it was so obvious that my credit at the moment was trash, which it was. And I was just like, wow, okay. So I don't.
Well, you were shaking your head in agreement
Okay.
as well.
She didn't read the room. She
Okay.
didn't read the room. I don't know if anybody else could tell that I was uncomfortable, but she definitely. Did I tell the story correctly?
I think so.
So yeah, it was a very awkward moment for us. But, you know, to her point, like credit is important. I was at that time in my at that time of my life, credit was not very important. I was like, I don't need credit. I just make a lot of money.
Right.
So but having conversations about money, like
Yes.
learning that people have different rules for money. So like
Mhm.
the husband might believe that money is meant for convenience and the wife might believe, oh well, money is meant for fun,
Mhm.
right? And so you just have different expectations of what to do when you get paid type of thing. So that was
Yeah.
a challenge kind of for us very very early on, very embarrassing, but she's done much better these days.
So, Courtney, what was going through your mind when when that conversation was happening, or when the question came out, or in addition to that, let me back up a little bit. Even then, you said, all right, credit scores was important. What led you to that train of thought? What got you to that place? Why you thought that was so important to you?
I mean, think for me it's just probably my upbringing. Like,
Yeah.
just having access to credit can get you further along in life, and he just had a completely different viewpoint on it at a time. And I think at one point I just stopped trying to convince him, and you know, he's the one that kind of has to learn in his own way for him to really grasp
Why do you
it.
keep pointing at me? I'm right here. Do you see that? You like him, he. Go ahead, go ahead.
Guy over here.
That's exactly what it felt like. That's exactly what it felt like.
I didn't point any fingers. If you felt the shoe fit, then
Her hand has been down this entire interview. All of a sudden, it's up.
um and again, I just think you can have maybe a hardship happen, but if you have access to credit and
Yeah.
I don't want to go as far as say it's your identity, but like that just says something about you and how you handle money, and how you handle money can relate to other things in
Mhm.
life, and it just shows discipline
Yes.
in my head. So it's just a factor amongst many factors, but I know for me, like finances are important, and um we have somewhat differing viewpoints on how finances should go. But we've again have done a lot of things to kind of help shape our mindset around money. We've done the Dave Ramsey course. We've done separate accounts. We've done percentage based. We currently do joint. So like it's figuring out what works for you. And like every couple is going to be different, but it's at
Yeah.
least like you mentioned having the conversation so you can be in alignment and you know being in a marriage, like you have to be moving towards the same goal, and that means
Yes.
financially as well. So it's important to have those discussions, especially early on.
Yes, absolutely. Because, and I want the audience to know this. We're not saying that you have to, you know, regulate or, walk through the financial arena exactly the same way. But if you're not having a conversation about it, you're avoiding, the inevitable. And I get it. Our financial personality is always, it should, most of the time anyway, it's usually different than your spouse. Because when when I got married, we tell the joke all the time. I think your I don't know whose credit score were lower, mine or yours. But I remember we went to buy our first truck as a couple, and I remember the guy at the dealership told my husband, if you want to walk out of here with that truck, do not put your wife's name on there.
I done been there. I done been there. I done been there.
Because listen now, you're talking about a guy who has never in his life bounced a check. He is 58 years old and he has never bounced a check, like ever, right? Never overdrawn, none of those things. And, I had when we met just in dating a year before that, I just came out of a divorce and I had to file bankruptcy and all of that stuff. So, hey, credit score, I didn't even know what that is, to be honest. So, we learn as we go along.
Yes. Yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
talking about 30 plus years later. Yeah, we've learned some things along the way, but the thing is initiating that conversation. That is the important thing. Like you said, you guys have done the joint accounts, you've done the separate accounts, I guess one person pay the bills, one person do this other thing, but hey, have the conversation and determine what works for your marriage. Don't let this be a thing that rips your marriage apart, obviously. All right.
Mhm.
So yeah, the financial thing was that was the main struggle for us to, again, having that misaligned expectation because, hey, I thought, I mean, so I made the minimum payment this month. That just means it's $25 more I can spend on that card. And he was like, "Girl, no, you can't do that."
Yeah. Well,
That
you don't know what you don't know.
that
Somebody.
that part.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know. So
Yeah.
we all start somewhere.
Yeah. And yeah, again, you get around people that that's whether they're masters at it or you see, they're setting good examples, to follow after. So yeah, that needs to be I think anyway, that's a hot topic that needs to be, need to be discussed. And I don't think it's enough to say, okay, that's don't marry this person. I think, for those that may be engaged at the moment listening to this podcast, being able to say, hey, I know your credit is trash, or I know her credit is trash, but we're going into this relationship honest, right? We can still work through that, get the help where we need. So it's not I don't think it should be anyway, the sole reason that you say, okay, no, the relationship is over. Because those behaviors can be learned,
Mhm.
I
You
think.
could even make it fun and be like, "Hey, we're gonna, plan and pay for the wedding once the person who has the lowest credit, their credit score gets to X number." Right? Like
Yeah,
you can set a goal and kind of have fun with it.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So true. So what are some of the top struggles? Because I know, AD, you're a men's relationship coach, so you get to have those conversations.
Mhm.
But what are some of the top 10 issues that you see these young couples dealing with, especially from the guy's perspective?
Oh man, from the guy's perspective, like the problems that the guy has,
Yeah,
like
even
what?
what they're struggling with, and how that is even bleeding over into their
Oh,
relationship in general.
so many, so many. Okay,
Yeah.
first I would say that, and me and you've talked about this in private before.
Mhm.
the guy has to have a vision, right? Because he has to know where he's going, know what outcomes he wants, and that he's bringing her along with him. Like he's bringing her into his vision. It's not the other way around,
Correct.
right? Um, she likely married you so that she can be led and she can kind of turn her brain off, not the other way around, right? Second, lust is very important. Lust is very, 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 very important. Because it creates a desire for her to literally want to physically be close to you, right? Um, Third, I would say, and they probably wouldn't word it this way, but a lot of men don't like themselves. They just don't like them. They don't like how they feel when they sit alone in a room, just them, no phone, no music, no internet, just their own thoughts.
Yeah.
And they don't love themselves. They don't respect themselves. And your woman is going to mirror that back to you. So I used to talk to myself very harshly, like in my head, right? Lots of shame, lots of critical talking. And any woman that I would deal with, even from high school, even, before my wife, would talk to me the same way. And I see a lot of these guys deal with this problem and they're like, she's so rude, she's so disrespectful. And that to me is just proof that he does not respect himself. She speaks to you out loud in the physical world, how you speak to yourself when you make a mistake in your head.
Wow.
Right. And
Wow.
even if they think that's not true, then let's just say you don't speak to yourself like that in your head. Well, then there's still something wrong because you allow her to speak to you that way. Like you don't check her, right? That's very important. You have to learn how to correct your woman, right? You don't have to be rude about it or anything, but like you allow poor treatment from her to you. So whether you talk poorly to yourself in your head or you don't and you just allow it, either way, you're in control, right? It is your job to set a boundary and say, hey, that's not going to work for me. That's not okay. I don't appreciate that. My mother doesn't even speak to me that way, right? But when you speak to yourself that way in private, it's just normal. You don't even think anything is wrong with it. You just think, oh, this is how all women talk. This is how my mom talked to my dad. This is how my aunt talked to my uncle. This is how, Marge Smith talks to Homer and, the Simpsons. So yeah, it all comes down to self-love, self-respect, because she cannot love you more than you love yourself. She cannot respect you more than you respect yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Courtney, what are your thoughts on that? Like some of the top 10, issues that you observe, whether it's on the woman's side or what you see affecting relationships in general.
Uh, I mean, he's the relationship expert,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
just from what I've observed,
Want me to give you one?
what's that?
Because we see this. We're not going to name no names. A lot of the relationships, I'm going to throw it out there. You can say if you agree or not.
Mhm.
Remember, the man is supposed to be the leader, right? And
Right.
so a lot of these relationships, the husband is following the woman's lead. Like he likes her more than she likes him. And it's very evident in how they treat one another. That's one that we talk about a lot. So I just wanted to help you out. But if you disagree, then you can, shoot that one down.
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes back to what I was gonna say is I think everyone does their relationship different.
Right.
But thinking from like a spiritual, biblical perspective, like the man is the leader and then the woman should be following. And I think just today with how society kind of portrays relationships and women's like women are strong, they're independent, but then some of them struggle when they get in a relationship because they're just so used to just different conditioning,
Mhm.
which I think is fine, but you have to find someone that wants that, and I
Yeah.
know some men do and some men don't. So it's and I guess you could say it's sort of relates to alignment as to what each other wants and then like the ultimate goal for the relationship, um and aligning on that early versus just kind of I don't know, I haven't dated in so long. At least from my perspective, you just kind of from like TV and whatnot, like it's just fun. So let's just kind of mess around, date, just not serious. And instead of kind of having some of those serious conversations up front, or
Yeah.
even like in your head, you think it's serious, but it's not. Nothing's been verbalized. You haven't talked about it. You just assume that the person's on the same page as you, and you realize that they're not.
Hmm.
So it's really being very intentional about at least going into something, getting married, engaged, and all that. That you're clear on what you want and be able to verbalize it, and just to ensure that the other person is on the same page. Which you see a lot of times, you'll get to like several months in or a year in, whatever it may be, and then you realize like you guys don't want the same thing. Uh,
Yeah.
so it's best to kind of discuss those as uncomfortable as it may be early on. It's like, well, what are we doing? Are we just having fun, or are we actually moving towards something greater for our relationship?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That is so important because, when we talk about we're talking about the major issues that we see affecting these, relationships. We go into marriage with this. I don't know. I don't even know where we get these expectations from. You mentioned the movies earlier, and I know Hollywood play a big role in our misconception about what relationships, need to be. Um, you know, but AD, going back to what you said about, the husband having that responsibility of leadership, having that responsibility of the vision, because when we say, when we're telling women, or when we're asking women to submit, we are literally saying you're coming under the mission of. And so, bro, if you don't have a mission, what is she subbing to? What is she coming under? And
Mhm,
so the main issue that I have with women doing that is they realize that the guy doesn't have a mission. They recognize that there's no vision there. And yet they said, you know what? I got it, dude. I got it. We're still gonna get together, but I got it. Uh
mhm,
Bro, no, don't do it to yourself, because you're gonna be, okay, you ever try to walk a dog that doesn't want to be walked, and you're
mhm,
dragging them along and their back leg just kind of drag? That's the picture in my mind when you have a man that doesn't have a vision for his family, his relationship, or even himself. Because I
mhm,
always say, even if my husband and I never got married, he would have still been successful. I mean, I believe he's further along because we became a team, but he would have still been okay because he had a vision for his life, whether or not I showed up,
mhm,
and it's so important that we each are coming into the relationship with some idea of where we want to be in the next 5, 10, 15 years, or whatever that looks like,
mhm.
you
I
know?
I I would say a lot of these guys do have a vision. It's just not like women have relationship goals, right? For the man, the relationship is the goal. That's it. I just want the woman, period. And then they're also really nice guys. So they think, "Oh, I want to make her happy." And
Can't do that.
right, they don't realize that like the goal is to have your career path, your idea of what you want to build, and then say, "Hey, babe, here's what I'm building. I would love for you to help me."
Yes.
Instead, they go into the relationship like, "Wow, I finally got a wife. All right, babe, what do you want to do?" So that's the issue. Like they just want the
Yeah.
relationship. They don't have a plan for themselves that they are including her in.
Okay, that is so well said. Because I've never heard it put that way before. I mean, and I agree with you. I've never really heard it put in those words.
Mhm,
The relationship is the goal. So once they get married, they feel like that's the arrival. That's it. We have landed.
not even really that. No, 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 no. So for a man, and women don't know this, they don't appreciate this because why would they? Sex is really hard to come by as a man. Consistent sex, oh my goodness, that's even harder. So the goal for a lot of men is just to have a woman who he can consistently get his desires met through, right?
Mhm.
And then now that doesn't even include marriage. That doesn't even, that's just, I have a girlfriend, I have a woman, right? Marriage usually comes from the woman. Like, hey, what are we doing? Where are
What's
we going?
yeah,
Where are you taking me? When are you going to propose to me? My time clock is because she has goals,
right.
right? And there's nothing wrong with her having goals, but I tell a lot of my clients, wanting is free. She wants a lot of things. Giving is costly, right? So you can give her what she wants, but it needs to be aligned with what you genuinely want to do and what you want to give her. Because I've seen, and I've even been in relationships in the past where like the woman will give an ultimatum. Like, hey, what's the word I'm looking for? Promote me or I'm out of here. Make me your girlfriend or I'm gone. Marry me or I'm gone. Right now, my wife never did that.
So change your status.
But
I'm out of here.
yeah. And so now you're the guy commits, but he's doing it out of fear. Like she started the relationship off bullying him. So of course it's never going to go well.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So to that young couple, going back to the person listening to this podcast and felt like, okay, it's been, 2 years, the honeymoon feel like it's over. I don't know. I don't know if I made the right decision because I now feel like I'm being bullied into growing, or I'm being bullied into putting in for that promotion or going back to school when I don't want to do any of those things. So help that brother out right now.
Yes. So the first thing you have to know, like this is I'm going to start from hopefully you pick the right woman, right?
Yes.
When it comes to marriage, because marriage is hard enough by itself,
Yeah.
right? Without picking the wrong person. So hopefully he picked the kind of woman where she's just like, hey, you ain't even got to marry me. I just want to spend time with you. Hopefully that's the kind of woman that you picked. So that way marriage is the icing on top because the relationship itself is the cake, if that makes sense. Hopefully you pick that. If you didn't pick that, well, then there's nothing you can do. You're screwed. You might just want to start backtracking now, in my opinion. Let's say you did pick and let's say you didn't pick the right person. The first step after that is still the same. It's start grabbing your balls and saying no. No, I'm not going to that function with your family. No, we're not buying that. No, we're not taking that vacation. No, no, no. It's backwards, but I promise you, it is the sexiest word in a woman's dictionary. No. Okay. And it's not even the word, it's the having the balls to say no and then not let her emotions move you off of your square. If that
That's
makes
leadership,
sense.
isn't it?
Say it again.
That's leadership, isn't it?
I guess you could call it's a part of leadership. It's a part of leadership. But I tell men that like the thing that makes a relationship great is the same thing that makes it really, really, really scary. Right? It's liking a woman so much that you're willing to do anything for her, right? And the problem with that becomes when you're willing to do anything, even things you don't want to do. And then you keep doing that, you fear her leaving or you fear the brunt of her emotions. So now you don't say no. And now because you don't say no, she's thinking in her head, like, why can't he stand up to me? If he can't stand up to little old me, then he definitely can't protect me. Now she feels unsafe. Now all kinds of other problems come, right? So that is step one is say no, let her be upset, give her a hug, give her a kiss, tell her to go sit down somewhere. Like that's number one. If you can do that, everything else becomes like 90% easier, right? So that's what I would say. Like start with saying no. Also go to my YouTube channel, AD the Kingmaker. There's a lot of videos there that are going to help you, but you have to learn, or what I had to learn is that if you say yes too often in the present moment, she will jump for joy. Yes. But over time, she will resent you, she will not respect you, and she will not like you.
Yeah.
And if you say no in the present moment, she's going to be upset. She's going to be fussy, but she's going to respect you, admire you, and like you long term. So you kind of just have to know that
Mm-hmm.
and move accordingly. Do that which you genuinely want to do, and don't let her bully you because it doesn't serve you. And I don't think that women even know that I don't even think they're consciously doing it.
Yeah.
They don't know any better. So that's really the essence of what it is that I teach my clients.
Yeah, I remember being told no a couple of times. It's been a few
See?
times. It's
See?
been a few
And
times.
it's
And
memorable. It's in her mind.
yeah, it
It's
it
the
it
same
is. Um, you buy stuff and
He had you take it back
sure did.
because he was looking out for your best interest. You were
And
doing
and
what
hey,
felt good, but it
in the
wasn't what's
moment,
best for you.
like you said, in the moment, no, it doesn't feel good. I wanted that dress. I wanted that shoes or bag or whatever it was. I think it was a dress.
Mhm.
And I remember, and see, listen to the way my husband says no. Do you think? Because I even remember the question. I remember how he worded it, and it's been years. Do you think that is the best use of our finances right now?
I'm gonna steal that one. I like that. I like that.
I and I couldn't even lie and say, yeah, I really believe it is. No,
You couldn't even convince yourself of that lie, huh?
even I couldn't even. But here's the point with that though. Once he reminded me of what the financial goals of our family was, right? Because he got the vision. He has this vision tattooed across his head. So basically any actions, any behaviors that comes or gets in the way of that vision, he's able to recognize it and say, okay, no, we got to pull back. We can't do that. We can't go after that or whatever, whatever the case is. And so, yeah, I remember taking the item back to the store, like, daggone it, you know, but I'm the one that wanted to be married. So let me shut up
Mhm.
and go take it back to the store. But we have the tendency to think that well, my husband can't tell me what to do, or my spouse can't order me around, and I think we're kind of looking at that through the wrong lens. I think we miss out on what our roles are, what that, who we are as individuals, what we're supposed to be contributing to the marriage, what that looks like, what marriage identity actually looks like. And we get caught up in what somebody else said on whether it's social media or whatever unhealthy relationship that we're looking at, knowing that whatever they're doing won't work in our marriage, but we're trying to implement those same things. And so those kind of things will lead your marriage off the cliff, not
Mhm.
going after the things that works for you. And so, yeah, definitely get that. Been there, done that, didn't feel good, but I respect my husband so much after that, knowing that, oh, he told me no. Okay. I mean, he knows how to lead. He knows how to be in charge, because I know how to stand up for myself, to be completely honest. My husband he doesn't always come to my defense, because he know that I have enough personality to, to defend myself. I don't necessarily need that physical, what do you call it? Pushback or whatever. But there's moments when I was like, yep, he my man. He leading, you know.
Mhm.
So I definitely get that. So one other question. Well, a couple other questions. How much time oh my goodness. Okay, we're almost out of time, but I'm gonna ask you this one. I want to always leave the audience with with something practical that they can implement into their life, that they can take away. And so I want to ask you, for either one of you, one practical tool or habit that helps strengthen your relationship when things felt really hard. Those moments where you're like, Lord, I think I made a mistake. Lord, I don't know if I can do this. Because
What the hell you laughing at?
listen, because I know we choose each other every single day. So
Oh,
what
I think with me.
see if you can share, that one practical tool.
We're gonna have to have a conversation after this podcast over. Um, I think I said this before.
Mhm,
This is something I came up with, but it just seems to be true from my experience.
mhm,
There is no safer place physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally for a woman than the chest of her man. So, like, literally having a conversation, let her lay on your chest, let her get it all out. It's probably not going to be factually true. In fact, it's not going to be factually true. It's going to be how she feels about something. And then you just kind of let her get it out. And then, like, it kind of like, it's like hitting a reset button. So, that
mhm,
is the most practical thing that you can do. I give this advice to couples all the time. I don't know how often they implement it, but
mhm,
if your wife is ever feeling upset or you're feeling upset, go in the bed or go in the couch, skin to skin, let her lay on your chest, then have the conversation because it's harder to argue that way. And there's a bunch of you can go look up the scientific literature on this. Like it slows
yeah.
their heart rate.
Uh-huh.
It releases anxiety. It does a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And it just makes for a very nurturing conversation.
Mhm. Courtney, would you agree?
Yes. He's
Yeah.
very good at that. He's very good at diffusing.
I do. I agree as well. Because what I teach couples is even if you can't get that, even if you can't get access to his chest right now, at least touch, hold hands, because there's something about that skin, like you said, about that skin to skin contact that just calms the entire nervous system for that matter. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but what I do know is a lot of times when you're in the thick of it, I don't want to be touched. I don't want you touching me,
Mm-hmm.
talk to me, because as a matter of fact, I'm trying to find something to throw at you.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you advise them in that moment? I'm reaching for that thermos or that shoe to throw, but you're telling me I need to touch. What? Okay, help me.
Yeah. No, that's
Help
that's a
me in that
great
moment.
question. That's a great
Yeah.
question. So here's what I say. It's gonna sound counterintuitive. I don't think men and women were meant to live together or spend this much time together. It's so hard. And we couldn't have been, right? So feel
What?
free to feel I know it sounds crazy. You probably talk to her too much. So feel free to just ignore her most of the day. I know this sounds crazy. And just let her be upset. Cause guess what? She's gotta come to bed at night anyway. She's gotta come to bed at night anyway. So you just be in there, laying in bed with your shirt off, like, hey, come here. Cause let's be real, like I think it's a lot of times it's our ego. And to another point, sometimes like you need to leave, or I'll speak for me. I need to be left alone. Don't touch me. I don't want to be touched right now. I want to process my emotions. And then once I process them, I'll come and find you.
Mhm,
Right. But outside of that, yeah, just go into bed, just be there. She's got to come to bed anyway. And it's really her ego, or I don't know what else to say, but it's like that's like the stubbornness in it. Like I'll tell my daughter to do something and she'll say no. And she's just being stubborn. She wants to do it. Right.
mhm,
So and this is a man and a woman thing. A lot of times we're just being stubborn, we're hurt, we're upset. And so that's why we are rejecting intimacy or closeness.
mhm.
But again, she got to come to bed anyway. So hey, I'll be here. You just grab her and you pull her to your chest. You just make her, and then it leads to good things. I'll just leave it at that. I'll keep it PG. It leads to really, really good things.
Courtney, what was that?
Nothing.
It's never not worked for me.
Yeah, there are times when, yeah, I think for the most part, I think and I guess it's mostly true, I think. But at the end of the day, we all want to be heard. We all want to be heard. We want to be able to have that safe space place, environment, whatever you want to call it, to be able to just let our hair down, just vent however we need to vent, not necessarily get a fix, but to process whatever that is. Yeah, of course, as women, we all know this. We have way more words than the men have, but at the same time, we do want that space where we can just like, hey, this is what's going on. This is what's going on. I'll sit there and tell my husband an entire story about my, an encounter that I had that day, and they did this and they said this, and would you believe? And he's like, wow, that's crazy. And I'm good.
No, he don't care at all. He don't care at all, at all.
No,
It's so
the
funny.
thing is, what I do know is he may not care about what I was talking about, but he cared enough about me to
Mhm,
let me be heard. And that's
mhm.
important. And so with having that repetition of creating space for me to be heard, it just create that environment of safety. So over and over and over, again, over the years, you feel more and more safe. You feel more and more, heard, more and more trusted. In those moments, and so over time, I would say to that young couple, hang in there. You know, hang in there, and create those spaces for your partner to be heard.
Interesting. That sounds hard to do. Hang in there. That doesn't even sound enjoyable. Can I give a
Well,
different
Well,
perspective?
I mean, when you say, okay, you can, but when I say hang in there, it doesn't mean
Yeah.
just hang in there and do nothing. You
Okay.
know what I mean? Just continue those practices, because you drop some really good points on
Mhm.
what they can implement over time. Yeah, it
Yes.
may not always feel like holding her and pull her in close, but the
Yeah.
more you do that, it's practice.
Oh,
That is
yeah.
the Yeah, that's the hanging in there that
I
that
got
I'm
you. You're
referring.
saying you're saying be consistent.
Yeah, exactly. Don't
Got
just
you.
don't just hang in there passively. My gosh, no. Just
Well, no, I was thinking just in general, whenever hang in there is usually a response when someone is dealing with something really, 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 really difficult and the
yeah,
person doesn't know what else to say in response back. Just hang in there. And so that's where I was coming from.
yeah,
I say my this is just for everything across the board in life for me. If
mm,
it's not fun, it's not for me. Right.
true.
And I think that we can set the bar higher than just being miserable for a very long time to say
Yes,
that you've been married for 45 years, right? So
exactly.
I would say try to find a way to have fun with it. Another
Mhm.
thing you can do if she's very upset and you want intimacy and maybe she doesn't, just start making jokes, maybe start making fun of her. Like, hey, when you're upset, your feet stink. So, just start saying things. Get a laugh, crack a smile, and then it's like, oh, okay, now you smile. You wanna hug me, huh? It's okay. Give her kisses, like almost like treat her. It sounds crazy. Treat her like her feelings don't matter for the moment because she wants love.
Yeah,
Like they always want love,
yeah,
right? So like give it to her, have her smile first, and
mhm,
then like kind of break the ice with that. But
yeah,
just on your chest, I promise. And then eventually it becomes to the point where she's like, when you gonna let me lay on your chest again? Like she'll start coming to you for
yeah,
it, right?
yeah.
So yeah.
But Courtney made a point earlier that humor plays such a big role in you guys' relationship dynamic, and I agree. We should. Humor needs to be a part. It needs to be one of those. So when we talk about, hey, one practical tool, that would be another practical tool,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know, and we definitely don't mean making fun of her to where it hurts her feelings, especially in public or anything like that. That is not
Hmm.
what we're talking about. We're talking about having humor in a sense that, we're not taking each other so seriously. We know how to break down those walls and those hard feelings or what have you. So, um, last question. If you could sit across from a couple in their first 5 to 10 years, what would you tell them to focus on first? Because there's so much going on when you first get married. So, what would you say? Hey, if you don't look at anything else, start here.
Mm, I would say to the husband, love yourself, respect yourself, know what you want,
Mm-hmm.
and find a fun, cheerful, enjoyable way to include her in what that is. And when you don't know what else to do, when she's upset or she's moody, give her a hug, give her a kiss, tell her to go sit down. That's my go-to.
He said, tell her go sit down like a 2-year-old. Oh, Courtney, what would you tell him? Or at least what would you tell the wife?
Only because I struggle with this.
Mhm.
Let let your man lead. Show him that you trust him. Allow him to take care of you, the family, and just follow him.
Yeah. Yep. Allow him to lead. And because I would say to that, if you are unable to let your husband lead, what are you doing? Why did you marry him in the first place?
Because she wanted a girlfriend. That's what they want. They want girlfriends.
But that's not, no, that can't be it. That cannot be it. That cannot be it. So we leave with, for the husband, start with your own self growth. Start with, pouring into yourself, knowing where you're going, knowing what you're called to do, knowing what your vision is, for your life, for the marriage, for a family, if that's the next step for you. And for the woman, allow your husband to lead. And so with that, we end here. Thank you both so very much for sitting down with me on the state of our union and the fight to keep it.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. Thank you for spending this time with me on the state of our union. My hope is that today's conversation gave you something to reflect on, something to talk about, and maybe even something to try in your own relationship. If this episode spoke to you, share it with someone you love or someone who needs to hear it. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss a conversation. Remember, strong relationships aren't built on perfection. They're built on intention, honesty, and the daily decision to choose each other. Until next time, guard your heart, nurture your love, and keep investing in the state of your union.